On today's episode of Making and Musing, I've got a finished object, a new cast on, and all about thinking through my spring knits for 2025. Hey everyone, welcome to Musing Maker. Happy March. We made it through the month of February. It was kind of something here on the East Coast. Lots of things going on in life and lots of really bad weather. So my front yard is finally not a skating rink anymore. And so I think that's, kind of pushing me towards the spring knits. We got some warmer weather, finally able to go outside, take walks without taking your life in your hands. And so, yeah, in today's episode, I'm all about heading into spring, looking at the transitional garments. And so the first one that I want to talk about is one that I finished. I didn't quite finish it in February because I finished the knitting in February and then I finished seaming it together actually just about a half hour ago. And so that is my Pick Your Pattern cardigan that I worked on as part of the Knitting Guild Association's first ever knit along. And so I will stand up to show you what it looks like. Try to step back a little bit so you can see it. All right, so as I mentioned before, there's a lace version and a cabled version, and I made the lace version. I'll turn around so you can see the back. So I really enjoy this pattern. I will say that by the time I was done, I was ready to be done with the lace, the lacework pattern. Not that it was difficult, just right. It runs up the sleeves, it runs up the front, it runs over the back. I'm ready to be done with it. So I am, so that's great. This was made with Holst Garn's Coast, which is a wool and cotton blend, and I marled two colors together, and the camera kind of blows it out a little bit, so it's a little bit of a, I've sort of mixed not really mossy green, but a light green with some dark undertones. So the moorland is kind of a darkish mossy green, and the fauna was the other color of coast that I used, and that's a much lighter green. So the sweater sits a little bit further on your back, which is kind of nice because it helps it stay on your shoulders, right? So that's a common complaint that people often have with cardigans is that they slip off their shoulders. So this helps prevent that. So there's actually no shoulder seam because you join the two fronts together in the back and knit down and finish the back that way. The seaming can get a little bit tricky because it's reverse stockinette stitch that you're seaming, and also there's some ribbing that has to be seamed down on the sides. But I will also say, and this was something that I learned doing level 1 of the Knitting Guild Association's Master Hand Knitter program, and the Knitting Guild Association was the one who hosted this knit along, so it sort of makes sense that I would kind of apply the things learned from the Master Hand Knitters to this particular knit along. But if you don't like seaming, I think that one of the things I would suggest, I would suggest a couple of things actually. First, I would suggest that you make sure that before you seam anything, you block the pieces, right? So if you're just trying to seam it together and then block it, you're making a lot more work for yourself in terms of the seaming process. So one of the things that I learned by doing level 1 of the Master Hand Knitter program is that, by blocking the pieces of the sweater and paying a lot of attention to the edges in particular, making sure that you're turning those edge stitches and pinning it so that those lie as flat as possible will really speed up your seaming process later on down the road. I think that when people don't like seaming, some people just don't like the process of seaming. They're like, give me knitting needles. I don't want anything to do with stitching stuff together. But I think most people, if they're honest, what they don't like about the seaming process is, first of all, how long it takes. And I think the other thing that they don't like is that they feel like they don't like the job that they do on the seaming, right? They don't like how the seams end up looking. And so one of the things that I learned from the Master Hand Knitter program is that, there are tips and techniques that you can, find and master that will help you become better at seaming garments together. If you acquire this information about some of the tips and techniques that will make the process easier, then you kind of have another tool in your toolkit that you can use that makes the knitting process that much more enjoyable. As with so many things, I think a lot of it is about mindset, right? If you go into it thinking that, oh God, I have to seam that thing together, and that used to be me. Right? Full disclosure, that used to be me. Even back when everything had to be seamed together, I used to kind of just sort of slapdash seam things together really quickly and not worry a whole lot. And yeah, now that I've kind of spent more time learning how to seam things together and, I look forward to having a chance to apply the things that I've learned. And then, when I'm finished with the garment, I'm kind of pleased to see how far I've come. Right? So that's my little push for seaming. And now I'll move on. Okay, so Finish It February was, the month that I was going to try to finish things. And I did finish this cardigan, but unfortunately I didn't manage to finish any other projects that I haven't already shown you in progress. So coming up for the month of March, I'm going to continue working on my framed sweater by Andrea Mowry. And I haven't put any more time in on that. I did block it. It's so I finished the entire part that's knit in the round, and I've blocked it, and now I'm ready to split the yoke. And I also want to work on continue to work on the squares for my midwinter blanket. The one thing that's making me a little bit nervous is that it dawned on me last night that if those two projects, both of them involve purling and color work. I didn't think this through, clearly, right? I don't mind purling and color work, but I don't usually put myself in a situation in which two of the major projects that I'm supposed to be working on for the month of March involve purling and color work. So we'll see how that goes, right? I'm probably going to alternate between the two of them. And so for the month of March, I'm really just hoping to sort of make some progress on both of them. Okay, so one of the other things that I want to do now that I've kind of, because I've finished this cardigan, right, the Pick Your Pattern cardigan, and I know that my other two projects both involve purling and color work, I know myself well enough to know that there is no way that I'm going to spend the entire month of March purling and color work. I'm going to want to cast on something new. And I know this because it has already happened. So what I wanted to do was cast on a pair of socks, and so that's what I did. And so this is, get it a little bit further away. Okay. So, let's see if it will focus. This is the Mermaid Avenue Socks by Summer Lee, and and the yarn is by a yarn company called Into the World, WHIRLED, and this color name is Where the Sun Don't Shine. And so yeah, I'm really enjoying this pattern. I think you can see it. Yeah, there we go. So it's actually a really nice, repetitive, and easily memorizable one, and it kind of creates these nice little mermaid scales. So this is definitely one of my, kind of mentally I'm thinking this is one of my spring knits that I'm going to try to work on for the month of March. My only kind of worry as I'm working on this right now is that to me these socks look big, but the pattern calls for you to use additional stitches because of the nature of, the sort of the pattern that's creating these scales kind of pulls the fabric in a little bit. So I look at it and I keep thinking they look big to me. But the flip side of that is I have made socks lately that have been decidedly too small, really. I mean, I can, like as I've said, I can get them on my feet, but it's not easy, and I'm, I'm always worried that they're gonna rip at some point. So maybe a little bit too big. Maybe the fact that it's looking too big to me is actually a good sign. We'll see. One of my other plans that has been a plan for a while, probably about a year and a half, is I want to make Kate Davies' pattern called Paper Dolls. And I will put a picture up so that you can see what it looks like. I saw this pattern probably about 2 years ago and loved it, and actually got the yarn for it. And so the yarn for that pattern has been sitting in my stash for quite a while now, and I really want to cast it on, and since it's a short sleeve top, I figure why not. And I believe it's done. It's done in the round, so I won't end up purling in color work again, because that would just be really ridiculous, like 3 garments. No. And so these are the yarns that I'm planning to use for that. Let's hold it up so you can see them. So this is Taki Yarns Donegal Tweed Fine, and it is, let's see, yeah, they don't have color names, but it is a mix of wool and mohair, so it should give a nice, yeah, it's got a nice little halo going with it. So it'll probably be a little bit warmer as a short sleeve shirt, but again, where I am on the East Coast, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we do get some pretty chilly days in April and even into May, right? A couple of years ago, I actually, and this was unusual for us, but I went to a friend's wedding on Memorial Day weekend, and it was 40 degrees. So it happens. The other sweater that I've had on my mind for a while, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna find myself casting on during the month of March, is the Miserina by Caitlin Hunter. Yes, I almost said Isabel Kramer, but I believe it's Caitlin Hunter. If not, I'll put a correction. And I have the yarn for that as well, which I think I've had in stash even longer than I had the yarn for the Paper Dolls. The yarn that I'm going to use, or that I'm planning to use for the Miserina, is I'm going to make it out of these 2 colors. Okay, and so this one, this color, is Blue Sky Fibers Woolstock Light. And I don't know if it has a color. Yeah, the color is Driftwood. And this one, I think, it's a sock. This one is a sock yarn. And I want to say it's from On the Round, and the color is Brick. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Obviously, I wound it up a long time ago when I was planning on starting this. Didn't save the label, and now here we are. But yeah, so it's kind of a toss-up as to which of the 2 I'm going to cast on. We'll see. We'll see where the spirit takes me. So as I mentioned last episode, I've also joined a Fiber of the Month or Top of the Month club being offered by Three Waters Farms. So if by any chance you are watching this and you are also getting the Top of the Month subscription and you have not seen the colorway for February yet, then you want to make sure that you look away, because I'm going to show it. So the February Top of the Month is called Golden Petals, and it's a Corriedale wool. It's Corriedale wool, and here it is. Yeah, I just love it. I don't know. I haven't gotten around to spinning it yet because I had to spin up a whole bunch of white yarn to ply with another roving that I had from last May. So that's done though, so now I can possibly move on to this one. And on that same note, I want to show, because I don't think I've shown this in any previous videos, although I might have. When I was at the New England Fiber Festival in November, again, it was actually a very nice day in November, but again, I sort of was anticipating, as I did with the sock yarn, the dreary months of the winter kind of coming. And so I picked up two fiber braids, and so both of them are from Allegheny Fiber Arts. And so this one is also a Corriedale, and it's called Spring Has Sprung. Okay. And then this one is a Falkland wool, and this one is called Hello Sunshine. So now I'm torn, right? Because I have these two braids, and I also have my Golden Petals top that I can spin. So yeah, don't cry for me, but yeah, I'm in a situation where I've got a whole lot of beautiful spinning that awaits me, and it's really just a question of which color kind of catches my fancy over the next few months. Okay, so that's it for today, for this episode of Making and Musing. Drop a comment down below if you have any particular springtime knits that you're working on. I'm always interested in finding out what people are working on and maybe finding some ideas for my own future projects. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much. If you're a returning viewer, thank you again for coming back. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'm starting to slowly build this channel up, and I'm very happy to have you on board. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week.